We announced a while back that the Fund 1 had been created. So that's basically ENV Fund 1, the $20 million. At the time of creation of the ENV account, 22.7 and change million EOS had been transferred. That was valued at $20 million at the time. That's currently worth roughly $50 million. The signal of the tokens moving, and they have moved from the ENV account onto a Kraken account that is a corporate account for the ENV, is a signal that we are completing investments. And so there are investments that will be made known over the coming weeks. The investments at current stage total, give or take $5.4 million of the current earmarked ones. And so you're the first ones to hear it right now live. This is the first time. The details of those investments will be made known over the coming weeks. Those tokens now have been moved in order to start preparing for those investment subscription documents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Some of you may be listening in right now, know what those investments are because you're a part of those investments. But others, I guess you'll find out when that becomes known. But essentially, that is Fund 1 that is moving. Now, some people ask, for example, why are all tokens sent to an exchange? The more that and every time that we make token transfers, obviously it generates questions just like this right now. And the more that the transactions occur, then the more token holders could make investment decisions based on those transfers. So imagine if, for example, let me simplify to illustrate the point, that if every time we made a token transfer, you then followed up with an investment the following week or in a month from now or whatever it is, you would now make investment decisions based on I see token movements. Therefore, there must be an investment coming in. So I'm either going to long EOS, short EOS, buy EOS or whatever. And then the argument can be made that you're making investment decisions based on the ENF and or the ENV. And this is what needs to be avoided as much as possible. Obviously, as everybody saw last week with the SEC regulation enforcement that came down on multiple other chains, that becomes even more important and more crucial to have that separation so that the actions of either entity does not potentially, to the best of our extent, because you can't remove that completely, but does not cause people to make investment decisions based on token movement. And so the token movement is essentially obfuscated through an exchange. Those tokens then land back on chain as they do with the ENF. So people ask as well, for example, does that mean that every time the tokens are there, that the tokens are being sold? No, not at all. That's the whole point, is if you knew that every time the tokens were being sold, then you could go in short or you can go in long or whatever it is. That's the whole point, is that people don't see the follow-up. But there are obviously accountability mechanisms and such built in through those organizations to ensure that the mandate and the spend of those is still abided by. And obviously, for example, in the ENF's case, because we're incorporated in Canada, then there's very strict regulations and very strict auditing requirements, et cetera. Same thing with the ENV, actually. There's very strict auditing. It's a full audit every year as well that is required. And so although you might not see it, which is the whole point, there are people that see it and that make sure that it has to abide by. And then in both cases, for example, in the ENF's case, there's the board. And in the ENV's case, there's also the 4 out of 7, or I guess the 7. So they're obviously made aware leading up to this. And so the level of awareness and the level of information is increasingly more as you go up the chain, less as you go down the chain type of thing, if that makes sense. But yes, this is obviously a very positive signal because investments are complete, essentially. They're to the point where now the tokens can transfer because they are needing to be transferred.